I grew up in a small town where everyone knew everyone. My parents weren't rich, but they gave me a decent upbringing, teaching me that loyalty and honesty mattered more than anything else. My father worked long hours at a factory, and my mother was a school teacher. From the time I was young, they instilled in me a sense of responsibility and discipline. One of the constants in my life was my best friend, Ryan. We met when we were just 6 years old, kicking around a worn-out soccer ball in the dusty lot behind the elementary school. We were inseparable. Fishing trips, sleepovers, video games, even helping each other through homework. He wasn't just a friend. He was like a brother. My parents treated him like another son, and his parents treated me the same way. We had this unspoken promise that no matter what happened, we would always have each other's backs. As for love, I never really knew what it meant until I met Emily in high school. She was radiant in a way that didn't demand attention but naturally drew people in. She had this laugh, soft but contagious, and eyes that looked like they could read you completely. I was smitten the moment I saw her, but being the awkward, shy kid I was, it took me months to even strike up a real conversation. Surprisingly, she liked me back. By the time we were seniors, we were dating seriously. Ryan supported us from the start. He used to joke that he knew Emily liked me before I even knew. He pushed me to ask her out when I was too nervous, and when I finally did, he celebrated as if he had won a championship. I remember thinking how lucky I was. The girl of my dreams and my best friend, both right by my side. After graduation, life got a little more complicated. I went to a local college while Emily studied nursing in the city. Ryan didn't go to college, he started working construction and making decent money. But despite the distance and the different paths, we stayed connected. Emily and I endured the challenges of a long-distance relationship, and eventually, after finishing our degrees, we settled down back in our hometown. I got a steady job in finance, and Emily started working at the local hospital. Ryan was still around, living just a few blocks away, and he was always part of our lives. When I proposed to Emily, Ryan was the first person I told. He was overjoyed, hugging me tightly and slapping me on the back. He even helped me pick out the ring. At the wedding, he stood beside me as my best man, giving a speech that had everyone laughing and tearing up. He talked about how he had seen our love grow from nothing into something beautiful, and how he was proud to witness it. I believed every word. Married life wasn't always easy, but Emily and I managed. We bought a modest house, one that needed some work but felt like ours. We dreamed about kids, vacations, growing old together. Ryan was constantly around, helping us fix things in the house, joining us for barbecues, watching games together. He was practically part of our family. I trusted him completely, never once doubting his loyalty. But trust, I've learned, can be the easiest thing to give and the hardest to repair once it's shattered. It started with small things I brushed off at first. Emily would be texting late at night, and when I asked who it was, she'd casually say it was a coworker. Ryan started making excuses for not hanging out as much, saying he was busy with work or tired. Once I came home early from work and found Emily startled, quickly putting her phone down. She smiled nervously, brushing it off as nothing. I didn't want to be the jealous husband, so I let it slide. But then came the lies. Little inconsistencies in Emily's stories. She'd say she was working late, but her coworkers would mention she'd left hours earlier. She said she was with her sister one night, but her sister posted pictures on social media from another city entirely. My gut twisted with suspicion, but my heart refused to believe it. Not Emily. Not Ryan. The breaking point came one rainy Thursday evening. I had stayed late at the office, buried in paperwork, when I decided to head home early. I drove past Ryan's house, and there it was, Emily's car parked outside. My stomach dropped. I sat there in my car, drenched in disbelief, telling myself there had to be some explanation. Maybe she just stopped by to talk. Maybe she needed his help with something. But deep down, I knew. I parked around the corner and waited. Minutes dragged into an hour before I finally saw them. Emily came out first, her hair disheveled, wearing the same clothes she'd left the house in that morning. Ryan followed, pulling her close, kissing her softly before she got into her car. My chest caved in. The world around me blurred. I wanted to scream, to run out and confront them, but I froze, paralyzed by the sight of the two people I loved most betraying me in the most brutal way possible. I drove home in silence, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. I don't even remember how I got inside the house. All I know is that when Emily walked through the door later, smiling faintly like nothing had happened, I felt something inside me snap. But I didn't confront her. Not right away. No, I decided I needed to be smarter. If they could lie to me so easily, I could play their game too. For weeks, I pretended everything was normal. I kissed Emily goodbye in the mornings, joked with Ryan when we crossed paths, and kept my suspicions locked away. But behind the mask, I was watching, listening, collecting every shred of proof. I checked phone bills, noted odd absences, followed her car when I could. Each discovery was another knife in my chest, but it also hardened me. The pain was unbearable, but it was slowly transforming into something else, something darker. Revenge. I told myself I wouldn't confront them until I had everything. I wanted the truth laid bare, undeniable, inescapable. I wanted them to feel the same helplessness, the same agony I felt sitting in that car watching them kiss. And I wanted to take from them the one thing they had stolen from me. Peace. So I kept playing the role of the oblivious husband, all while planning. Nights when Emily thought I was asleep, I'd lie awake staring at the ceiling, rehearsing how I'd bring their world crashing down. I didn't want just a confrontation. No. I wanted something permanent, something that would make them regret what they had done to me for the rest of their lives. The first step was gathering undeniable proof. I bought a cheap recorder and hid it under the passenger seat of Emily's car. Within days, I had their voices on tape. Emily laughing, Ryan telling her he loved her, both of them talking about how careful they had to be. Hearing it gutted me. It wasn't just a fling, it was emotional, intimate. They were planning weekends together, even talking about the what-ifs of a future without me. Then I went digital. I installed a small program on our home computer that logged her passwords. Within a week, I had access to her messages. Reading them was like stabbing myself over and over. I saw her call him my love, telling him how much she cherished the way he made her feel alive again. And Ryan, my best friend, the man who once toasted at my wedding, he wrote back promising her that one day they wouldn't have to hide anymore. Every word scorched me, but at the same time, it fueled me. I wasn't going to let them have their little fantasy while I lived in ignorance. They thought they were clever, sneaking around behind my back. They had no idea I was already 2 steps ahead. The second step was isolating them. I began withdrawing affection from Emily subtly, enough for her to notice but not enough for her to confront me outright. When she leaned in for a kiss, I'd give her a peck and pull away quickly. When she wanted to talk about her day, I pretended to be tired. I let her feel the absence of my attention, knowing she'd run straight to Ryan for comfort. And she did. Meanwhile, I started planting seeds around our circle of friends and family. Innocent comments, little doubts. Emily's been working late a lot, I'd mention casually. Or, Ryan's been keeping to himself lately. I never accused, never gave them anything concrete, just enough to make people pay attention. The third step was the trap. I arranged a weekend getaway for Emily and me, pretending it was a romantic surprise. I even bought the reservations, showed her the emails, the whole act. Then, at the last minute, I told her I couldn't make it because of an emergency at work. I insisted she should still go, that it would be good for her to relax. Of course, she didn't go. She went straight to Ryan instead, thinking she was free. And that's when I struck. I had already installed cameras in Ryan's house a week prior, disguised in smoke detectors and vents. That night, I sat at home watching live as they cooked dinner together, kissed in the kitchen, then disappeared into the bedroom. It was sickening, but it was also exactly what I needed. I recorded everything, neatly packaged into a folder with dates, times, and transcripts of their messages. The final step was exposure. I chose Emily's birthday party as the battleground. We had invited close friends, family, even Ryan was there, standing in my living room holding a beer like nothing was wrong. I remember looking around at all those familiar faces, people who thought they knew us, who thought our marriage was solid. My hands shook as I raised a glass to toast. I want to thank everyone for being here to celebrate Emily, I began. My voice was calm, steady, though inside I was boiling. Birthdays are about appreciating the people we love. And tonight, I want to show just how much love has meant in my life. I connected my laptop to the TV. The first slide appeared. Pictures of Emily and me through the years, smiling, holding hands, looking like the perfect couple. People clapped, cheered. Then, suddenly, the slideshow changed. A video began to play. At first, it was just audio. The recorder from Emily's car, her laughter, Ryan's voice saying, "I love you." Gasps filled the room. Emily's face went pale. Ryan stiffened. Then came the footage from his bedroom. Clear as day, the two of them tangled in each other. The room erupted. Shocked cries, whispered curses. My mother covered her mouth, Emily's sister screamed her name, and Ryan's beer dropped to the floor, shattering. Emily sobbed, begging me to stop, but I let it play for another agonizing minute before cutting it off. The silence that followed was heavier than anything I'd ever felt. "This," I said, pointing at the frozen screen, "is what my wife and my best friend have been doing behind my back for months." While I trusted them, while I loved them, Emily tried to speak, but I held up my hand. "Don't. You've said enough in those videos and messages. Everyone here deserves to know who you really are." Ryan stammered. "Man, please, let's—" "Don't you dare," I snapped, my voice breaking for the first time. "You were like a brother to me." "And this is how you repay me?" The party ended in chaos. Emily ran out crying, Ryan chased after her, and the rest of the guests left in stunned silence. My phone buzzed nonstop that night, friends, relatives, even Emily begging to explain. I didn't answer a single call. I just sat in the dark, finally breathing, finally feeling like I had regained some control. But revenge doesn't come without consequences. Emily moved out within days, crashing at her sister's place. Ryan lost nearly all his friends overnight. People in town whispered about them, calling Emily a cheater, Ryan a snake. Ryan's girlfriend, who had been suspicious but never had proof, dumped him immediately. At work, people stopped respecting him. Some even refused to work with him. His reputation crumbled. Emily begged me to forgive her, sending long texts about how she had made a mistake, how she still loved me, how she wanted to fix things. But I couldn't even look at her. The woman I thought I knew was gone. The irony is, even after ruining their lives, I didn't feel the relief I expected. I thought exposing them would free me, that seeing them suffer would somehow heal me. But instead, I felt hollow. Yes, I had destroyed their illusion, but in the process, I destroyed myself too. I started drinking more, isolating myself, avoiding calls from family. My parents told me they were proud I stood up for myself, but I could see the disappointment in their eyes, not at me, but at the situation. They had loved Emily like a daughter, Ryan like a son. Now everything was poisoned, and I couldn't escape the memories. Every corner of the house reminded me of her. Every street in town reminded me of Ryan. The betrayal lived in my bones, and revenge hadn't purged it. It had only carved the wound deeper. Weeks passed, but the ache didn't. I went through the motions, work, bills, sleep, but I felt like a ghost inside my own life. People whispered when I walked by, not out of pity but because my story had become gossip. "Did you hear about him?" His wife and best friend? That was my identity now. Emily kept trying. She'd show up at the house in tears, knocking until her knuckles bled, begging me to talk. Sometimes I gave in, opening the door just enough to look at her face. She looked broken, thinner, her eyes swollen from crying. "I made a mistake," she'd say over and over. "It wasn't love, it was confusion. I never wanted to hurt you. But the thing about betrayal is that once it happens, it rewrites the past." Every memory I had with her now carried a question mark. Did she mean it when she said she loved me? Was she already thinking of him when she kissed me? I couldn't live like that. Ryan tried too, though his attempts were more cowardly. Texts saying, "Bro, please, I messed up. I was drunk," or "She came on to me first." Lies, excuses, anything to absolve himself. I never replied. I couldn't even stomach the sight of his name lighting up my phone. One night, Emily came over and dropped to her knees in the living room, sobbing into the carpet. "Please," she whispered, "don't throw us away." "I'll do anything. Therapy, counseling, whatever it takes." I wanted to feel compassion, but all I felt was numb. "You already threw us away," I said quietly. "The moment you let him touch you, it was over." She stayed there, crying until she realized nothing she said could change my heart. Eventually, she moved out for good, and the divorce papers followed. I signed them without hesitation. It felt like closing a book that had already burned to ashes. As for Ryan, life didn't treat him kindly. Word spread quickly in our small town, and he lost his job not long after. His crew didn't want to work with someone they couldn't trust. He tried moving to another city, but the reputation followed him like a shadow. I heard he bounced from job to job, drinking heavily, isolated. A few mutual acquaintances told me he blamed me for ruining his life. The irony made me laugh bitterly. He ruined mine first. I just showed the world the truth. But here's the part I never expected. Revenge didn't heal me. For months, I lived on bitterness, replaying the night of the party in my head. People called me strong for exposing them, for not letting myself be played for a fool. But strength? Number. It was desperation. I wanted to hurt them as badly as they hurt me. And I did. But when the dust settled, I was still alone. It took me a long time to accept that the closure I was searching for didn't come from destroying them. It had to come from rebuilding myself. I started small. I quit drinking. I joined a gym, not because I wanted to look better, but because I needed an outlet. I threw myself into work, not to hide, but to focus. I even began seeing a therapist, someone who listened without judgment, who helped me untangle the mess in my head. Slowly, the fog lifted. I realized Emily's betrayal wasn't about me lacking something. It was about her weakness, her choices. Ryan's betrayal wasn't about me either. It was about his envy, his selfishness. For too long, I had internalized their actions, thinking I wasn't enough, that I had failed somehow. But the truth was, I had given them everything. Trust, love, loyalty. They were the ones who squandered it. The day the divorce was finalized, I walked out of the courthouse feeling strangely light. The papers were just paper, but symbolically, they were freedom. I was no longer tied to her lies, no longer chained to the version of my life that had been ripped apart. Months later, I bumped into Emily by accident at the grocery store. She looked tired, aged beyond her years. For a moment, we just stared at each other, the silence heavier than any words. Then she whispered, "I'm sorry." I nodded. "I know." And I walked away. I didn't need revenge anymore. I didn't need apologies either. What I needed was a future, and I was finally ready to build one. Ryan. I haven't seen him in years. Maybe he's still drifting. Maybe he found some way to piece his life together. I don't care. He's a ghost from my past, and I don't let ghosts haunt me anymore. As for me, I started fresh. New friends, new routines, even new dreams. I'm not naive. I know scars remain, and trust will never come easily again. But I'm stronger now. Stronger because I survived the worst betrayal imaginable and walked through the fire instead of letting it consume me. Sometimes, late at night, I think about what happened. Not with anger, but with clarity. Betrayal broke me, revenge consumed me, but healing rebuilt me. And if there's one lesson I've learned, it's this. You can destroy someone else's life in revenge, but it won't bring yours back. The only way forward is to let go and live better than the people who hurt you.